Everybody. It was so nice to see some of you on Zoom tonight. If you're still having problems getting on Zoom, please let me know ASAP. I really want to see everybody's face. And yeah, so Zoom is probably the only way we're going to be able to do that for a little while. So just to recap or summarize the story so far. Chapter 1, we talked about how he was born, Despero was born, and his parents thought he was a disappointment. And his mother said, oh, he ruined my good looks. I'm never going to have babies again. And then second chapter, basically his dad spent the whole time saying what a disappointment he was. And his brothers and sisters kept telling him what a disappointment he was, because instead of scrambling around trying to find food, he was always stopping to smell things and enjoy things. And they thought that that's not the way of a mouse. So they kind of made fun of him. He was a little bit different than they were. And I just wanted to say thank you to uh, Harmony and Emily for drawing pictures of him. They turned out really, really good. I'm going to be sending them to Mr. Saul to kind of show what we've been doing kind of outside of the online learning. So let's start with chapter 3. Despero's siblings tried to educate him in the ways of being a mouse. So remember, he didn't act like the rest of the mice. His brother Furlow took him on a tour of the castle to demonstrate the art of scurrying. You move side to side, instructed Furlow, scrabbling across the waxed castle floor. Look over your shoulder all the time, first to the right, then to the left. Don't stop for anything. Remember, he's trying to teach him how to be a regular mouse because, again, he doesn't know how to be a regular mouse. But Despero wasn't listening to Furlow. He was staring at the light pouring in through the stained glass windows of the castle. He stood on his hind legs and held his handkerchief over his heart and stared up into the brilliant light. Furlow, he said, what is this thing? What are all these colors? Are we in heaven? Cripes! Shouted Furlow from a far corner. Don't stand there in the middle of the floor talking about heaven. Move! You're a mouse, not a man. You've got to scurry. What? Said Despero, still staring at the light. But Furlow was gone. He had, like a good mouse, disappeared into a hole inside the molding. Despero's sister Merlot took him into the castle library, where light came streaming in through the tall, high windows and landed on the floor in bright yellow patches. Here, said Merlot, follow me, small brother, and I will instruct you on the fine points of how to nibble paper. Merlot scurried up a chair and from there hopped onto a table on which there sat a huge open book. This way, small brother, she said, as she crawled onto the pages of the book, and Despero followed her from the chair to the table to the page. Now then, said Merlot, this glue here is tasty, and the paper edges are crunchy and yummy. Like so. She nibbled the edge of a page and then looked over at Despero. You try now. First, a bite of some glue, and then follow it with a crunch of paper. And these squiggles on the page, oh, they're so tasty. Despero looked down at the book and something remarkable happened. The marks on the pages, the squiggles as Merlot referred to them, arranged themselves into shapes. The shapes arranged themselves into words, and the words spelled out a delicious and wonderful phrase. Once upon a time. Once upon a time, whispered Despero. What? Said Merlot. Nothing. Eat, said Merlot. I don't know if you can really see the pictures, but... So again, while his sister's eating and worried about how she's getting her food, he's just worried about stopping and taking in the things that are around him, kind of like we should be doing now with us being in quarantine. I couldn't possibly, said Despero, backing away from the book. Why? Said Despero. It would just ruin the story. The story? What story? Merlot stared at him. A piece of paper trembled at the end of one of her indignant whiskers. It's just like Pa said when you were born. Something is not right with you. She turned and scurried from the library to tell her parents about this latest disappointment. Despero waited until she was gone, and then he reached out and with one paw touched the lovely words, once upon a time. He shivered, he sneezed, he blew his nose into his handkerchief. Once upon a time, he said aloud, relishing the sound, and then tracing each word with his paw, he read the story of a beautiful princess and the brave knight who serves and honors her. Despero did not know it, but he would need very soon to be brave himself. Have I mentioned that beneath the castle there was a dungeon, and in the dungeon there were rats, large rats, mean rats? Despero was destined to meet those rats. Reader, you must know that an interesting fate, sometimes involving rats, sometimes not, awaits almost every mouse or man who does not conform. Okay, so 2 things I want you to do here. 1, look up the word conform so you know what that means. And 2, I want you to try to YouTube drawing a stained glass window and draw me a stained glass window and show it to me tomorrow.